Welcome, welcome back, y'all. Welcome back, y'all. These are crimes we shouldn't watch. Let's get into it.
The footage you are watching is of a home invasion in Claremont County, Ohio. Two intruders carrying several gas canisters and a duffel bag break in through the main entrance of the home and begin burglarizing the residence. After stealing 2 TVs and dousing the entire house in gasoline, the robbers exit through the back door, and within moments, the explosion could be heard from over a mile away.
911 calls poured in, and by the time the fire department had put out the fire, the house and everything in it had been completely destroyed.
Thankfully, there were no casualties. After checking the security cameras, it was clear to the investigators that this was a case of arson, and possibly an attempted murder. The house that was set on fire actually belonged to 43-year-old Paul Hicks, the prime suspect in one of Ohio's most notorious murder cases. Back in 2001,
Paul's wife, 25-year-old Regina Hicks, went missing and was later found dead inside her car at the bottom of a pond beside a quiet country road. She had been brutally beaten, indicating it was a homicide. However, police were unable to find her killer, and the case went cold. But 14 years later, this robbery would reignite interest in Regina's case. Literally.
At the time of the fire, Paul was staying at a hotel for a work trip over 2 hours away.
He rushed back to Claremont County upon hearing what had happened. While reviewing the footage with the police, he immediately recognized the female intruder as his ex-girlfriend, Kelly.
So you've had some problems with her in the past?
Oh, yeah.
She has been threatening to you in the past.
Oh, God, yes.
Apparently, Paul and Kelly were in the middle of an ugly custody battle over their 6-year-old son, Daniel.
3 months earlier, in March, Kelly was caught on camera vandalizing Paul's hot tub.
You got the video of her chopping up the hot tub.
Mm-hmm. 2 months ago, this is when she did that.
She even came back to finish the job later that same night. At one point, she stood up and looked straight into the camera, as if she wanted Paul to see how far she was willing to take things. Additionally, the day before the robbery, the two had gotten into an argument about the custody battle, and she began harassing him with phone calls.
Just told her,
What's
stop
going on,
calling
love?
me. And then she called, I think, 95 times in a row.
Welcome
Okay,
back.
this was
Thank you
last
for
night.
Kicking it
Yes.
with me this evening.
Since there was already an
Or this
outstanding
morning, I
warrant
should
for the
say.
hot
Alright.
tub incident, Kelly was swiftly tracked down and arrested for misdemeanor criminal
you doing?
damage.
So I didn't do anything wrong.
I understand.
I'm handcuffed like a criminal. I have no record at all.
What you have is a criminal damaging warrant. So it's not, if you haven't gone out and killed anybody or anything, it's just a criminal damage warrant. Okay?
Will you take these off?
No, I have to leave the cuffs on, unfortunately.
But I did nothing.
Kelly was brought into the interrogation room for an interview.
Yes, it's being
Can't
recorded.
sleep.
Is that cool? Oh, yeah. Good.
Even
Everything
after
alright? You're
being
not sick
shown
or nothing, are
video
you?
evidence of her involvement in
Nothing
both the
going
hot
on?
tub incident and the robbery, Kelly was
You ain't gotta tell your
adamant that
business
the
on here. You
female
can DM me or
suspect
text
was
me if you
not
want.
her.
This is the girl that is Right. They're trying to say is me, but it's not me.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the obvious.
And you guys do resemble each other.
just like the eyes, the cheeks, and the eyebrows. Other than I don't have that distinctive chin.
Kelly told the detective that at the time of the incident, she was 30 minutes away in her Norwood home. Surprisingly, they were quickly able to confirm this claim, and Kelly was ruled
I
out
was
as
just
a
gonna ask. I
suspect.
thought you'd
But
be
if
on
Kelly
stream too
wasn't
right
the
now.
person in the video, then who was it? The detectives began to notice all of the strange details surrounding this case. Why would the female intruder, who just so happened to have a striking resemblance to Kelly, completely expose their face in distinct hairstyle? Why would this same person stare into the camera after vandalizing Paul's hot tub, knowing that it could lead to their arrest? Kelly also said that the phone call harassment accusations were completely unwarranted because she had no contact with Paul that evening whatsoever.
Now, do you have your records from the June 17th that night?
Yeah.
Because the records I find is that you made a lot of phone calls to him. You guys have been texting back and forth on the 17th, so this was the night before the fire.
Here's the whole text message conversation.
Okay, I know he's talking about, hey, he's going to go for full custody and all that stuff. And then after that, after between about 8 o'clock and 10 o'clock that night, there's numerous phone calls from your phone to his phone?
Oh no, that's what I was just showing you right here.
Okay.
I never called him at all after the last time that I spoke with him is at 6:25.
Okay.
And after that, his number's nowhere. I never
Okay.
called him
So
at
there was no
all.
phone calls to-
None, zero, none. I never called him at all.
Somehow, somebody was mimicking Kelly's number and harassing Paul. Upon this
92
realization, Kelly
calls
said
is
she knew
crazy.
exactly who was behind this. Paul himself. She said that in the past, she had seen Paul use a website called SpoofCard, which disguises your phone number with a fake virtual number of your choice. Using information provided by the SpoofCard team, the investigators concluded that Paul had set up this fake number under the name of another one of his ex-girlfriends. He had also purchased multiple items using the same ex's name
Weirdo,
and bank
man.
cards, including a wig that matched Kelly's hair and a creepy, custom-made mask from that'smyface.com, using reference photos of Kelly. Many of these photos were displayed on Paul's social media, and some of them originated from Paul's cell phone, meaning he must have uploaded these photos to the website himself. Paul had already been ruled out as one of the intruders, since he was confirmed to be 2 hours away at the time
To
of the
make a
robbery.
mask
But
of
even though
someone's
they couldn't
face?
identify the intruders, it appeared that Paul was the mastermind behind this elaborate frame job, likely to gain full custody of their son and collect the
always sleepy,
insurance money
honestly.
from the fire.
This failed plan resulted in a
particularly right
7-year-long
now.
civil
I got a
suit
Red Bull
with
just in
Allstate
case.
Insurance, who refused to pay out his home insurance
My
policy.
camera angle is just
Eventually,
different.
he was faced with 6 criminal charges as well.
I got
The
a little
plan
bit
was to frame
lower
his
now.
ex-girlfriend and get custody of their child and collect insurance money. But investigators in Claremont County say they did not buy the elaborate scheme and took the case to a grand jury.
I may look
43-year-old
a
Paul
little
Hicks is
weird
now
right
indicted
now.
for aggravated arson, insurance fraud, and perjury.
With all of this attention on Paul, old rumors about his involvement in Regina Hicks' murder were coming back into the spotlight. So, investigators took another look at the evidence collected back in 2001.
Probably a couple of hours, honestly. Well, it's
Your call has been
12:45
forwarded to an
now.
automatic voice message system.
Probably at least till 3, I would
Is
imagine.
not available.
Just depends on how things go. You know how it is streaming late.
I don't know where you're at or what you're doing, but I swear to God, you're not hurt.
But if it's super slow, it'll be earlier than that. Yeah, I got you. Got you.
She was supposed to come pick my
Let
son
me
up.
be in your ear while
She
you
called
fall
me at
asleep.
7:53. That's what my cell phone said. I don't know exactly what she exactly said, but she goes, I'll be there.
Regina was supposed to come pick up Montana at Steve's house,
Yeah,
and she never showed
never
up.
showed up.
Actually, Paul is lying. Regina did show up to pick up their son, but she immediately got into a heated argument with Paul, who then struck her 3 times in the head, knocking her unconscious.
What'd you do with Montana then?
I took it back to my sister's, and I figured if she was going to show up, she'd show up there, show up the next morning.
You said earlier you thought maybe she just didn't show, she was maybe partying or something?
Yeah, she
Where-
did
where's
party
she
and
party
everything.
at? General.
All bars, people's houses, wherever there's a party.
Paul then tries to convince the detectives that Regina was a drug dealer, despite her family saying she was never involved with drugs whatsoever.
He tells them that just 1 month before this interview, on September 6, 2001, she got arrested during a traffic stop for having marijuana and pills inside her vehicle.
She had marijuana, and she was going to Kentucky, and
She got busted with dope?
she got busted here in Willard. I don't know if she was taking it or what she was doing. I know she'd be at the house if she didn't sell it. And then, she got busted for that.
Which did the charge her? What kind of dope she
Never
had?
charged her with nothing.
Paul once again is leaving out key details about this incident, making it
Oh,
seem
you're a
like
liar,
Regina
Paul.
had some shady drug deals that could have led to somebody murdering her. What Paul isn't mentioning is that his best friend, Steve Gates, was actually the person who called the police on Regina.
When Regina was pulled over and arrested, she said that Paul and Steve had planted these drugs in her vehicle and were trying to set her up in order for Paul to gain full custody of their son, Montana.
You're about to custody your boy?
Yep. Yes, if you give me joint custody, I'll give you everything you want. The furniture, everything. And she said, okay, I'll do that. She decided to change her mind. She's not going to give me joint custody. Somebody told her she's not going to get child support if I get joint custody.
That's been a pretty nasty affair, huh?
Yep. She's got a diminished twist to her, as you could say, that
Good evening.
she don't want to see me here.
Some important context is that according to
good
Regina's
morning.
family and friends,
Thank you for the
Paul was a
heartbeat.
controlling and abusive husband, and Regina had been considering leaving him
Miss
for a
Page,
while.
it's good to
6
see
months
you.
before her death, their house was
Told you I
destroyed
wouldn't forget
in,
this
you
time.
guessed it, a house fire and she and Paul split the insurance money. Suddenly, Regina had money in the bank and decided it was a good time to break free from her abusive marriage, so she filed for a divorce. Paul did not want to pay child support, so he made it clear that he wanted full custody.
However, in less than 2 months, Paul had blown through most of the insurance money, lost his job, and was soon due to start paying child support.
Despite this clear motive to want Regina out of the picture, Paul insisted that he didn't try to set her up back in September. And more importantly, he vehemently denied killing her. The detectives interviewing Paul asked him to do a polygraph test. Paul agreed. However, when he came in the next day to do the test, they ran into a problem.
Okay, first of all, I guess I'm going to ask, are you willing to take the examination? You know, from the sure, absolutely. Is it ready to do drinking or is there pills? Well, it depends what type of pill you take.
At this point, the polygraph examiner decided not to go through with the test since the alcohol and pills in Paul's system could mess up the results. However, the examiner went forward with the pre-test interview anyway. During the interview, he made up a fake scientific test called the ozone atomic test.
Amazing, this determines the time of death? No, like I said, it determines was weather at the time of death. There's particles that are floating inside the car.
He was trying to make Paul think that the crime lab had overwhelming evidence against him, which would hopefully elicit a confession. However, the examiner was only able to get basic information out of Paul before the interview was concluded, and Paul was free to go. Following this interview, the detectives struggled to find any new evidence or leads, and the investigation eventually fizzled out.
We just want justice.
Lacella Holbrook's dining room table speaks volumes about what she's been doing in the year since her daughter Regina Hicks' murder. Clippings, posters, and handbills, all designed to keep the case in the public eye.
Somewhere somebody knows something. It's just a matter, is the people afraid to speak up?
But no one has spoken up. Just how did Regina end up beaten in the head inside of her car in this pond where she died of drowning? Worst of all, she left a 5-year-old son, Montana. Tell me about your mom.
She used to buy me toys a lot.
You miss her, huh?
I know Paul didn't do this. I raised Paul. I know what kind of child Paul is. So I know Paul didn't do this.
18 years later, in January of 2019, Paul was facing 6 criminal charges related to the 2015 house fire. 2 counts of aggravated arson, 3 counts of perjury, and 1 count of insurance fraud. He was offered a plea deal which eliminated 5 of the charges and reduced the remaining insurance fraud charge to a misdemeanor. He accepted the deal in 2022 and received 3 years of probation. As for his civil suit against Allstate Insurance, he ultimately lost that case and was forced to pay $400,000. Regina's family, who still believed Paul was responsible for Regina's death, saw these punishments as a slap on the wrist and urged authorities to reopen Regina's case.
For years, her mom, Lacella Holbrook, spent thousands on billboards, rewards, newspaper ads to keep people talking about the case and conducting her own interviews on her daughter's death.
My mom ended up getting cancer and passing away.
For over 2 decades, the family has lived with one question: who killed Regina?
That was until Ashley Ford, who hosts her own true crime podcast, began looking into Regina's case.
I wanted to see if we could get some attention to a cold case that definitely deserves justice.
As she dove into the evidence, she quickly realized that there was one person that could hold the answers the family was looking for: Paul's friend, Steve Gates. As we mentioned earlier, Steve had called 911 to report Regina for the illegal possession of drugs in her vehicle.
Also, Regina was on her way to Steve's house right before she disappeared. It seemed possible that after their ploy to get Regina arrested for possession didn't work,
Paul and Steve decided to take things to the next level and get rid of her themselves.
Ashley and the family raised enough awareness about the case that it was reopened by the Huron County authorities.
An interview was set up with Steve, and the first thing he said to the investigators was that he was ready to tell them everything, as long as he had immunity. The prosecutors agreed, and Steve began telling them what happened on the night of October 18th, 2001. Steve said that Regina pulled into his driveway. She was there to pick up Montana, her and Paul's 4-year-old son. Paul walked up to her car, and the couple got into an intense argument. Steve didn't want to get involved, so he went to his garage, turned on the radio, and tinkered around for a bit. When he came back outside, Regina's car was now parked near the road, and Paul was standing at her passenger side door. He went over and noticed that Regina was unresponsive. He asked Paul what was wrong with her, and Paul said that she was dead. At this point in the interview, Steve broke down in tears, but he eventually composed himself and finished his story. Steve told Paul to call 911, but Paul refused. They argued for a bit before Paul said to Steve that he was now an accomplice and he had to help get rid of the body. Paul got into Regina's car and started driving toward a pond several miles away.
Steve followed behind in Paul's truck with their son Montana in the back seat.
They eventually made it to the pond, and Paul drove straight in, Regina still in the passenger seat. Paul then escaped the vehicle out of the window and hopped into the car with Steve. During their drive home, Paul called Regina's cell phone to make it seem like she had never showed up.
It's me, Paul. Did you be here at 8:39? Give me a call. Bye.
Steve drove Paul to his sister Crystal's house since he was living with her at the time.
Paul thought she wouldn't be home for a while, but that day she just so happened to get off of work early.
I came home to a mess in my house, and I was headed to the bathroom, and he tried to cut me off.
Who's he?
My brother. And he said it was a mess, I would be mad. And when I proceeded to go to the bathroom anyhow, his muddy clothes were floating in the bathtub. We've been trying to clean them. Steve was sitting on the couch, and like I said, I think I surprised them both because I got off earlier than normal. He had scratches on I believe it was his neck or part of his face, somewhere in this area. He said a tree had fallen on him, scratched him.
Steve said that in the years following this incident, Paul threatened him and his family, telling him to keep his mouth shut. Following his interview, Steve and the investigators drove to his property, where he gave them a more thorough walkthrough of what happened that night.
And then I come around the corner. They were like standing maybe here somewhere. I just remember this little swale. They were in this little, and they were like yelling at each other.
And you were over there. So when you came out of the garage, where were they at?
Down there, down by that fence or behind the dump trailer. I just remember being like amped up and just not thinking clear at that point because I'm like,
right. Leave a damn lie too.
Involved and everything else, and just.
How long do you think you were standing by the car with Hicks?
Damn lie, Steve.
And then you get in his car and follow.
With Steve's cooperation on their side, the prosecutors finally felt confident enough in their case to arrest Paul. They followed his movements for a while before pulling him over on a country road.
All right, we're lighting them up.
All right, here we go.
Come on, step out.
We're gonna go right over here in the cruiser. Sure. Paul, I don't know if they told you yet, we had a warrant for your arrest. Okay.
Nobody's told me nothing.
So
what am I being arrested for?
There was an indictment.
Paul was transported back to the station, where the detectives tried to interview him. But as far as Paul was concerned, an interview wasn't on the agenda.
It's not very disrespectful for me, because give what you need to do and show me the charges so I can make my call.
Do you want to know what the indictment is?
No, I want to make my phone call.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would like to talk to you about what that.
And I remain silent. I don't want you to talk to me about nothing.
So you don't have anything to say?
I have nothing to say to you. I want my phone call. They were supposed to bring my phone, which I know is a lie. They're not going to.
Well, you'll get your phone call when you get into the jail.
Oh, I'm not in the jail?
No, this is an interview room.
Take me to jail.
So you're cool with it.
Let's go.
So you're gonna go.
You're not running the show here. Well, I'll remain silent. Well, then that's fine.
That's fine.
And they'll get to you when they get time to get to you. Oh, I know. I said on the horse. Well, we don't get it. I know you don't. You guys don't. Well, it's all about you, Paul. Yeah.
Since Paul was being stubborn, the interview was concluded and Paul was taken to the county jail. He was charged with murder and kidnapping. Paul pled not guilty and was denied bond.
We continue to follow huge developments in a 24-year-old cold case. A mother found dead in her car. Now, her estranged husband has been indicted for murder.
The recent developments have opened a door and led to, at long last, an indictment Now it's up to us to prove the case beyond a reasonable doubt in a court of law.
Paul's trial began on December 10th, 2025. The state had no physical evidence to directly link Paul to the murder, so they mainly had to rely on witness testimony in order to convince the jury of Paul's guilt. More specifically, they had to make sure that the jury believed Steve Gates' story. The same Steve Gates that helped dispose of the victim's body, lied to the authorities, and kept Paul's horrific secret for 24 years.
Steve Gates discussed what happened on October.
Knew you was lying,
18th,
Steve.
But he lied. And he's going to get up on the witness stand and he's going to admit to you that he lied. He lied to the sheriff's department. He lied for 24 years. He could have continued lying. Nothing would have happened to him. He had nothing to gain by coming clean. Steve Gates will tell you that.
To everybody's surprise, the defense decided not to give an opening statement, so the state started calling their witnesses. They called several members of Regina's family to tell the court what they knew about her relationship with Paul.
Was he controlling as far as their relationship went?
Yes, like she would only talk to her mom when he wasn't home. Towards the end, when she was kind of wanting to end things because she knew he was with Jansen, he pretty much told her that nobody'd want her. If he couldn't have her, nobody could.
Please read what you heard the defendant say.
I hate you, die. You're a ball and chain, old lady, dumb. You're worth more to me dead than you are alive.
Steve Gates requested that his identity be kept hidden during the trial, so no cameras or audio recording devices were allowed during his testimony. The state's next few witnesses corroborated Steve's story, like Jimmy Patrick, Regina's uncle, who had apparently seen her car at Steve's house on the night of the murder.
I was driving by Gates' house. I just glanced over and looked, and I said, that looks like her car.
When you'd seen that car, you said it was getting dark?
Yeah, dusty dark.
Paul's sister Crystal also corroborated Steve's testimony with her story about coming home to a muddy bathroom and Paul's scratched up face. Jansen Phipps, Paul's ex-girlfriend at the time of Regina's death, told the jury about the days following her disappearance. She said that after Paul left his sister's house, he came over to stay the night, but he snuck out while she was sleeping.
What happened after you went to bed?
I went to sleep, I woke up, and Paul was gone, but I didn't get anything of it, and I went back to sleep.
When he got back, he told Jansen that he had accidentally left a pair of boots at his sister's house, so he went there to grab them.
What did he tell you about muddy boots?
That he had a pair of muddy boots from the day that Regina went missing, because they were digging the pond, and he put them on his sister's back porch, and somebody stole them.
She soon learned of Regina's death, and she noticed that Paul had a sudden interest in true crime and polygraph tests.
Did you also watch crime shows?
We watched a lot of Forensic Files and just shows about how people would get rid of evidence and things like that. He told me that that there were ways to beat a lie detector test.
Did he talk to you about things like breathing techniques, things like that?
Yeah, he had a book. I feel in my memory like it had a yellow covering. It was a softback, it wasn't a hardback book. But yeah, it was how to beat a lie detector. Told me he was just trying to protect himself.
She also testified that Paul had admitted to planting drugs in Regina's car as an attempt to get her arrested.
He told me that he and Steve worked together to plant drugs in Regina's car to keep her from getting custody of Montana.
Throughout this trial, the defense leaned into the lack of physical evidence to plant reasonable doubt into the jury's minds.
There's nothing that you found when you reviewed the DNA to implicate Paul Hicks. Isn't that true?
There's nothing at all that I can compare to anybody. It's just simply not sufficient for comparison purposes.
They also questioned Steve Gates' credibility. They suggested that he was using Paul as a scapegoat by lying about his involvement in order to gain immunity.
The state conceded that Steve Gates has lied for 24 years. Is that your position?
That's what I've been told, sir.
And you can't rule out, as you sit there, that he is going to lie tomorrow.
I can't. No, sir, I can't.
They then called out the former sheriff for having tunnel vision on Paul from the very beginning.
You testified you're trying to rule people out. You got her best friend telling you she's having relations with 4 guys and you don't send anything to BCI in regards to those 4 men.
We did not send anything in regards to those 4 men. That's right.
So then, as you sit
Yeah,
here
4
today,
guys.
you didn't rule out those 4 potential men as suspects in this case.
Nothing led us to believe those 4 people were suspects.
After a 2-week trial, it was time for
Sounds
the closing
crazy out loud. Ain't
arguments.
nothing wrong
Paul
with it. Sounds
Hicks
crazy out loud.
assaulted his wife, Regina Hicks, hit her over the head, stuffed her into a passenger seat of her 1994 Camaro. We are fully confident you will find beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant, Paul Hicks, is guilty of murdering Regina Hicks.
To find Paul guilty, you have to find him guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, the absolute highest standard in our legal system. Their whole case was based upon speculation and conjecture. Remember back in the 70s or 80s with the "Where's the beef" commercials? Where's the beef? Where's the beef? Well, let's get to the beef in the case. 0 forensic evidence linking Paul to the alleged crime scenes. 0. None. 0 forensic evidence to corroborate the scientifically unverified fiction of Charlatan Gates. They checked for blood, hair, skin, body fluids, nothing. There's also 4 other men that were potential suspects, but they didn't send any testing here.
Motive. That's what it's about here. Regina's independence. Regina wanted child support. Regina wanted custody. Regina fought back. You don't fight back against Paul Hicks.
At this time, then, we will take a time for the jury to begin their deliberations.
After just 3 hours of jury deliberations, a verdict was reached.
On the indictment for count 1 being murder, the jury finds the defendant guilty of murder on unclassified felony. It's dated December 19th, 2025.
Paul continued to shake his head as he was found guilty on all of his charges. His sentencing took place the next month on January 9th, 2026. Before Paul learned his fate, Regina's family gave their impact statements, expressing the depth of the pain and grief Paul had caused them.
Regina was intelligent, far more intelligent than you. She had a rare kindness and a heart that would have only grown stronger with time. She brought light into the lives of others simply by being herself. She would have made a real impact on this world. This was a calculated act of control by a man who believed he had the right to decide whether his wife lived or died. And you made that choice. You erased her from her son's daily existence. You silenced the voice that would have guided him. You stole the mother who would have comforted him, protected him, corrected him, and loved him through every stage of his life. He grew up without her wisdom, her reassurance, and her presence. Regina will be remembered forever. You will be held accountable and forgotten.
Paul Hicks, you're a monster. I hope Paul Hicks and Joel Hicks see Regina's face every night of their lives. I hope you, Paul Hicks, get a disease that eats you away, slowly and very painfully. I hope you rot in hell, Paul Hicks. You think you're above the law, but they finally got you.
Paul was not born a monster. Monsters are made. They are created through choices, through entitlement, through being enabled and never held accountable. Over time, Paul was allowed to believe he had power over others and that he could have control, harm, and destroy without consequence. And that belief turned him into exactly what we see today. Regina was everything he was not. She was a beautiful spirit. She carried light, kindness, and warmth into the lives around her.
Your Honor, this case could have been solved 24 years ago if the Hernando County Sheriff Department and Dane Howard would have done their job. But they didn't. So I want to thank you, this court, and the jury for getting justice for Regina and my family. As far as saying anything to Paul, he don't care. I'm not going to say anything. One thing I got to say to him is get used to prison food and don't drop the soap.
OG talking
Thank
that
you,
talk.
Your Honor.
Yes,
Montana,
sir.
Paul and Regina's now 28-year-old son, gave a written impact statement which was read to the court by a victim's advocate. I stand before you as the biggest victim of this tragedy. I grew up without a mother and was shunned by my mother's family and treated like an outsider. My whole life has been affected by this and is still being affected today. I can't escape this. During this impact statement, it became clear that Montana wasn't fully convinced that his father had killed his mother. To me, there is no justice as to lack of evidence. Nothing has been solved, and nothing will be until the truth comes out about who really did this to my mother. Do I feel like he should be punished? No, but anyone who committed a crime should pay. I lost my mom, and now I'm losing my dad. Montana then asked the judge for leniency, urging mental health treatment for his dad, rather than incarceration. After taking everything into consideration, the judge handed down Paul's sentence.
There is no reason for any leniency in this case. The defendant had the benefit of roaming free for the last quarter of a century before facing justice here today. The court's total sentence then would be 25 years to life.
Paul sat emotionless as he learned his fate. He was taken to the Lake Erie Correctional Institution in Conneaut, Ohio, where he will spend the rest of his life behind bars.
Damn. Weird. Oh. Let's get on to the next one, though. This one is called Husband Instantly Becomes Suspect in Wife's Murder. Let's go.
Call work 1.
Archer County Sheriff's Office.
I got a dead body out here at Lake Cooper.
What?
Yeah, this is going to be the one he's looking for.
What the officer just alluded to was the discovery of 49-year-old Manuela Allen's body, dead at the Lake Cooper State Park in Texas. At the time of this discovery, her husband, 55-year-old Peter Allen, was back at the station being interrogated by detectives.
I mean, it could be somebody in the household. It could be you. It could be,
And I'll be honest with you, Peter, and we've been sitting here for probably 4 or 5 hours right now talking. I think there's more to it than what you're telling me. I'm innocent, and I know it. I did not harm my wife.
Clearly, Peter is quickly being thrusted into the position of prime suspect. But is this just a case of tunnel vision, or did Peter really assassinate his wife of 23 years? In order to answer that question, we need to go back to the early morning hours of July 7th, 2019, when an officer was dispatched to the Allen household following a frantic 911 call from Peter. The officer was met by Peter on the driveway. Peter was clearly still distraught about the discovery he just made.
Morning, Mr. Allen. What's going on this morning? I have no idea. My wife's gone. Her car is gone. My daughter comes and says, "Hey, Dad, where's Mom?" And I go, "Well, I guess in the room sleeping." And she goes, "Well, no, the door's locked." I slept on the couch. Car's gone, so she goes through there and unlocks it. She comes up and said, "Dad, there's blood all over the place." Okay. And I have no idea. You have your ID with you, Mr. Allen?
He has no
Peter led
idea.
the officer to the master bedroom. It was a bloodbath.
I bet.
Okay, go ahead and step out here. Go ahead and come out here. Usually her keys are hanging right there. Okay, let's go ahead and go out to the living room. And you say you looked in the garage and the car's gone. Well, the car would be parked right in front, yeah.
After doing a quick scan of the scene, the officer went back to his cruiser and provided dispatch with a description of Manu's missing vehicle.
Shows to be a white Arcadia. Pass the information along for our officers to look for it.
Dispatch relayed this information to all law enforcement on duty and directed Sergeant Dan Burbeck to accompany the officer at the scene.
This is him, this is his daughter.
They tenaciously tried to get a hold of Manu, but their calls weren't going through, so they wondered if they could pinpoint her cell phone's last known location.
Hey, can you ping a phone?
They also contacted both of the hospitals in Olney to see if Manu was a patient at one of them, but neither of them had a record of her being there. With Manu missing and her room painted with blood, Burbeck declared the Allen household a crime scene. Peter and his kids, Kiara and Darian, were told to step outside.
I need y'all to go ahead and step out here on the porch. Just have a seat. Mom, your mom's missing, okay?
We're already attempting to locate her. So I checked both hospitals here. I didn't find anything. If you'll stay here.
Brain Eater, thank you for the heart.
Sergeant Burbeck
Welcome
went back
in, by the way.
inside while the officer stayed on the porch with the family. He used this opportunity to begin building a rough timeline.
When was the last time you saw her?
Last night, probably about 9 o'clock.
Yesterday evening, Manu gave Peter a goodnight kiss and went to bed. Peter ended up falling asleep on the living room couch. He said that he didn't hear anything suspicious all night. After waking up and discovering the blood, they realized that Manu was also missing, so they went directly to the hospital to see if she had already gone there. When they couldn't find her, they went back home and dialed 911. The officer found this part of the story suspicious.
Thank you for the
Why
3
wouldn't
months
they call
support,
911
too.
immediately
Appreciate you.
after discovering the blood?
That's
It was
love.
also
Thank you.
strange that Peter was showing little emotion despite these concerning circumstances. While the officer continued to gather basic information from the
Do the
family,
thing.
Sergeant Burbeck was inside the
Good.
home, inspecting the blood evidence.
I
He
wanna-
peered into the kitchen and noticed 2 bloody footprints. One of the footprints had a distinct pattern in the center, likely from a therapeutic sock. There was also a bloody handprint on the kitchen door frame. The trail of blood led Burbeck across the hall and into the master bedroom. The
thank you for
bedroom
the
and
hat and
closet
mustache
doors
as
were
well,
covered
Brandy.
with
I
blood,
appreciate you.
and
Hold
several more handprints were smeared across them.
There it
There was
is.
also a large pool of blood at the foot of the bed and a pocket knife on the floor beside it. Strangely, Manu's blanket and bedsheet were missing, but the puzzle pieces began to fall into place as Burbeck made his way through the laundry room and into the garage. A streak of blood ran across the floor and out the back door, as if a body had been dragged outside. The trail continued to the side of the garage and stopped near a set of tire tracks which extended to the driveway, potentially indicating that a body
my
was loaded
pleasure.
into a vehicle which was parked on the grass.
just getting started, too.
Manu kept her car keys hanging on a hook on the kitchen wall. Since the trail of bloody footprints led directly to the keys, the detective believed that the perpetrator had previously been inside the household and already knew where to find them. Sergeant Burbeck returned to the front porch and pulled the officer away from the family to share his troubling observations.
So it looks like she might have been killed in the bedroom. We have tracks going along the side of the house here, like somebody pulled around and loaded her in. There are drag marks through the garage where she was drugged out the back door.
The officer told Burbeck that despite the clear struggle that had taken place,
Thank you for the
Peter
share as
supposedly
well.
didn't hear anything throughout the night.
Y'all
This,
shared it
along
live
with
with
his
a friend
strangely calm behavior,
who loves
raised
true
some
crime.
red flags for the officers.
He's probably going to be our number one suspect.
They reconvened with the family and made it clear that they believed foul play was involved.
I'm gonna tell you, if something sinister happened and there's somebody involved in it.
Just in case any of the family members were responsible for Manu's disappearance, the officers wanted to question each person separately. So, after securing the scene, they brought Peter, Kiara, and Darian down to the station while the officers got in touch with Peter and Manu's other children, Melanie and William. But rather than questioning them themselves, Burbeck asked the Texas Rangers to assist in the investigation. Ranger Michael Schraub
Not
was put
lying.
in charge of the case. His first order of business was instructing several other rangers to help process the crime scene. He also requested that the neighboring counties help locate Manu's vehicle. Meanwhile, he went to the Young County Sheriff's Office to interview Manu's family. First up was their number one suspect, Peter.
I don't know that, but if somebody came in, she put up one hell of a fight, I'll tell you that. She's tough.
Peter tried to brainstorm what exactly had happened to Manu. He seemed to believe that she had survived the attack and spread her blood around afterwards.
The way there was blood, it looked like there was a
She
fight.
survived the attack and spread her blood afterward.
Then if she bled that much, she could have been kind of silly for not having blood. And then it was like stunned and wiped it on the door. But none of that makes sense to me, because then why would she
Don't make sense to me either.
have blood on the outside of the door? And then no blood in the hallway. I don't know. Nothing makes sense to me right now.
Considering the sheer amount of blood at the scene, it was obvious that Manu had not survived the initial attack. Either Peter was in denial about this, or he was intentionally playing dumb. The detective wanted to know if Peter had a motive to kill Manu.
Was she involved with anybody else? Did you suspect that? Or were you involved with anybody else? Did you suspect? Just something like that.
My wife is a Roman, old school Roman Catholic.
Okay.
From Germany, in Bavaria. That's where we just were for the 3rd week. Goes to church every Sunday. No.
Okay.
I mean, I'm a man, so I'm a dog. I look, but I don't touch. I'm married. No.
Peter was adamant that his relationship with Manu was solid, but he also said that he had slept on the living room couch all night. The detective wondered if sleeping on the couch indicated that the two had been fighting.
What led to you sleeping on the couch last night? Somebody told me that you had said that y'all had some type of disagreement or whatever last night. No? Is that normal that you sleep on the couch? Okay.
If you ask my kids, they'll tell you I sleep on the couch all the time. One, my wife snores really loud. 2, I snore really loud. 3,
I had a few drinks last night, and me and my wife had a drink.
I'm sleeping on the couch. My lady's in the room.
I sleep on the couch.
While this was a convenient explanation for Peter, the detective still couldn't understand how he didn't hear the struggle that was taking place right down the hall. The detective didn't want to make it obvious that he was suspicious of Peter, so he shifted the conversation to Manu's relationship with the kids.
Any particular conflict with any of the kids?
You, my children?
Yeah, your children.
My children would never touch my wife.
Okay.
And my wife, she didn't beat somebody. If somebody came in, I don't know that, but if somebody came in, she put up one hell of a fight, I'll tell you that.
Peter claimed that nobody in the house would have done this. The only other person who might have known where the keys were was Melanie's ex-boyfriend, Julius.
He got mad at my older daughters and they were breaking up, so I'm not saying sentiments, you know.
Although this was useful information, Ranger Schraub didn't want to direct his focus away from the family. He made it clear that everybody that was inside the house at the time of the murder was still a suspect.
I mean, it could be somebody in the household. It could be you. It could be, you know.
I know you have to keep everybody open as a suspect. I understand you gotta do what you gotta do. You understand, you find a person, I'm gonna do what I gotta do.
I'll be honest with you, it sounds like it's somebody that had some type of relationship or something with her. And I'm sure it kind of, you can see that, I'm sure, too, to a certain extent, especially since you didn't wake up or anything in the middle of it. If there's a struggle.
The struggles can be quiet. Just a long way from the front of the house to the back of the
That's perfect, Brain Eater. Thank you for joining us
marks
this
on your
morning.
arms or on your face or anything. You don't have anything on your chest or anything like that, do you?
No. If it was a fist fight with my wife, there'd be bruises, trust me.
While this interview was taking place, an officer with the Archer County Sheriff's Office was looking for Manu at the Lake Cooper State Park when he saw her vehicle, abandoned in the middle of a field.
This vehicle is going to be unoccupied, and looks like it's been wrecked out.
It seemed that the vehicle had gotten stuck while driving over a small hill, and the bumper plate had fallen off in the process. Upon closer inspection, the officer saw traces of blood all over it.
28 is going to be Texas, Lincoln, Sam Victor.
With the help of dispatch, the officer was able to confirm that this was in fact Manu's vehicle. So, he began searching the surrounding area for Manu. He walked towards the fence line, and when he turned to his left, he saw a white cloth in the distance. The cloth was partially hidden under some plants, but as the officer got closer, he realized that the cloth was actually a blood-soaked sheet. A body was wrapped inside of it. With a sigh of defeat, the officer walked back to his cruiser to inform dispatch and the other investigators about his discovery.
I got a dead body out here at Lake Cooper.
Say a command or say help.
Call Work 1.
Archer County Sheriff's Office.
Hey, this is going to be the one he's looking for.
What?
Yeah.
After receiving the news, Sergeant Burbeck, along with a team of Texas Rangers, drove to Lake Cooper to process the scene.
Well, we have a whole crime scene back there at the house.
The sheets that Manu was wrapped in were the missing blankets from her room. Her injuries can be aptly described with 2 words: complete overkill. She had dozens of stab wounds all over her body, mostly concentrated on the back of her head. Also, her neck had been broken by strangulation, and she was shot in the face.
Mercy.
The presence of a bullet casing at the scene indicated that Manu was shot after she was already dead. Based on her injuries, this appeared to be an unfiltered emotional killing. Thankfully, the investigators found several clues pointing to who the killer might be. For starters, there were several bloody fingerprints on the vehicle. There was also a distinct footprint in the mud next to the driver's side door. The pattern was from an Air Jordan Legacy shoe. Additionally, there were several bicycle tracks in the mud. Since it was a recreational area, it wasn't unusual to see bike tracks, but it was also possible that the killer fled the scene on a bike. The investigators wondered if anybody had witnessed this, and in a stroke of luck, they ran into someone who might have. An oil field worker just down the road from the crime scene said that early in the morning he saw someone riding a bike towards Olney, wearing a gray sweater, black pants, and a backpack. A team of investigators headed in the same direction to see if there were any nearby surveillance cameras. Back at the station, as Ranger Schraub interrogated Peter, he received a message asking him to step out of the room for a moment.
I'll go get you a bottle of water because I know you're about to be getting thirsty.
He was pulled aside and advised that Manu's body had been found. When Schraub went back to the interrogation room, he gauged Peter's reaction as he broke the tragic news.
They have found her vehicle.
Where?
It's in the neighboring county, and there's a body next to it.
Dead body?
Right now. Yeah, but we haven't confirmed 100% that it's her, but considering the circumstances, we believe it is.
He just said, okay.
We have people, I think there's gonna be a criminal investigation.
Yeah.
So your house is gonna be
Crocodile tears.
part of the crime scene.
Peter seemed genuinely heartbroken, struggling to hold back his tears. The detective offered to tell the kids as well, but Peter was insistent that he do it himself.
Okay, I respect that.
Maybe cry, but I gotta make it up.
There's nothing wrong with crime in this situation.
Peter and Manu's kids, Kiara, Darian, William, and Melanie, were all at the station at this point waiting to be interviewed. They all hugged their dad as he broke the news to them.
Nobody broke into the house. And I can't remember what he was. They robbed the car and they brought him up. They got that positive idea.
As the family held each other, Kiara collapsed to the floor. The rest of the kids sat and grieved with her, except for Darian, who sat against the wall away from everybody. Although everybody grieves in their own way, the detectives found it strange that Darian would disconnect himself from the rest of the family during such a traumatic moment. After giving everybody some time to process their loss, the detective made sure Darian was the next person to be questioned.
What's your name?
Okay.
Right off the bat, the detective noticed that Darian's legs were shaking. He also noticed a blister on Darian's hand. He wondered if this injury could have been from a repetitive stabbing motion while attacking Manu. Schraub asked Darian to describe last night from his perspective. Darian said that he arrived home from a friend's house around 11:30 p.m. and went straight to bed. However, he struggled to fall asleep, so he ended up playing video games most of the night with his headphones on. Other than some rustling in the kitchen sometime after 3 a.m., which he assumed was his dad getting himself a snack, Darian didn't hear anything for the rest of the night. The detective wanted to know if there was any tension between Darian and his mom, possibly surrounding his late-night gaming sessions or his unemployed status.
Was she on to you about getting a job, or was it just...
No, she was just helping me out. We kind of had a little disagreement because I don't want to go to college, but she wants.
The detective then inquired about the blister on Darian's hand.
What'd you do to your hand up there?
This?
No, the blister.
Mowing the yard.
Schraub had his suspicions about Darian's claims, but at this point, there was no evidence to refute them. Before he wrapped up the interview, he decided to throw a Hail Mary and ask Darian directly if he was involved.
Do you have anything to do with your mother's? Yeah, do you know who it is?
Darian was told to sit in the waiting room while Schraub moved on to interview the other family members.
Let me get your name wrong.
The detective had Kiara describe the night from her perspective as well. She said that she spent yesterday evening at her boyfriend's house and arrived home around the same time as Darian.
I got home at like 11:50.
Okay. So 11:50 or so, you were home. Who was at home when you got home?
My dad was there, and my mom was in her room.
Did you see both of them?
I just saw my dad.
Since they keep the doors locked at night, Peter had to let Kiara in. She went straight to her room and fell asleep while FaceTiming her boyfriend with her earbuds in.
I woke up at 8:45, and I just got ready to go to the gym, and I went to go put my clothes in the washing machine, and I go to my mom's room, because I have to go there to get to it, and the door was locked when I tried to go in there, and I mean, usually it's not locked. So I went, asked my dad where she was, and he looked really confused, and he just told me to go check around through the garage.
After going through the garage, Kiara saw her mom's blood-stained room. But rather than getting help right away, she started inspecting the room, looking for answers as to what had happened.
I picked up a pocket knife on the ground to see if there was blood on it.
To Kiara, this seemed like a reasonable decision at the time, since she wanted to know if her mother had been stabbed. But picking up the knife at a potential murder scene can easily compromise the investigation. Maybe she had actually stabbed her mother and was now lying to explain her fingerprints on the knife. Also, Kiara's room was on the opposite side of the master bedroom wall. Were her earbuds really so soundproofed that she didn't hear any commotion from the master bedroom? But just like Darian, there wasn't enough evidence to refute any of Kiara's claims. Melanie and William were also questioned, but there weren't any major revelations during their interviews.
If I told you that I suspected it was somebody close to the family, who would you think that might be responsible for it? Anybody?
Honestly, I have no idea, because everyone loves my parents.
Any idea who may be responsible for this?
No, I wish I did. I don't know anyone who would want to hurt them.
Okay.
Once all of the interviews were finished, the Allen family was free to leave, but since their house was still considered a crime scene, they stayed at a friend's Airbnb for the time being. The investigators were able to obtain surveillance footage from a bank that is located on West Main Street, the primary road that leads in and out of Olney. At exactly 6:31 a.m., someone was captured riding a bicycle into Olney, away from Lake Cooper, where Manu's body was found. This individual matched the description that the oil field worker provided: a gray sweater, black pants, and a backpack. But unfortunately, the suspect's face wasn't in clear view. One thing was certain: this person's stature did not match number one suspect Peter. Also, none of the bikes in the Allen's garage matched the tracks that were in the mud, so it was unlikely that the person in the video was one of the Allens. However, the investigators found another item in the Allen household that was extremely damning for Peter. In the master bedroom, they found a compression sock covered in blood. The pattern on the bottom of the sock matched the bloody footprint in the kitchen. Peter was asked to come back to the police station, where Texas Ranger Jason Shea conducted another interview. Ranger Shea started off by asking Peter how he was holding up. He said that things had been hard and became overwhelmed with emotions.
You need some Kleenex? You good?
I've been crying for 5 days for something a little more. Sometimes I cry, sometimes I'm so pissed, sometimes I'm so outraged. I want to cry. Honestly, I want him dead.
Before confronting Peter, they spent a large portion of the interview going over his story again.
When was the last time you saw your wife?
Well, I lay down and went to sleep that night. One drink during the day, I slept on the couch. And I said, well, just go around through the garage. We hauled ass to the emergency room at Oldie.
For the most part, Peter's story was consistent with the statements he made in the last interview, but there were some crucial new details. Apparently, he did hear some noises that night. Around 5 a.m., he heard Manu's vehicle starting up.
I heard it start go, and then all of a sudden I didn't hear anything. I was thinking maybe my wife went to Allsup's to get some coffee or something. I don't know.
Does she usually get up at 5 and go get coffee?
Every once in a while she would get up and go get milk, but that didn't make sense because we had just been shot the day before.
Right.
None of this makes sense to me. None of it.
He also heard something within the house earlier that night, but didn't think much of it at the time.
I thought it was my son coming down from upstairs, and that was it. And I'm like, whatever, that's got to be Darian.
After several hours of letting Peter talk, Ranger Shea relentlessly called him out on how ridiculous his story sounded.
And I'll be honest with you, Peter, and we've been sitting here for probably 4 or 5 hours right now talking. I think there's more to it than what you're telling me. Just listen to me. You knew whoever left that blood was not alive, because that is too much blood. You knew that too because of your training.
I didn't know that too. I thought my wife was hurt. I was hoping and praying she was hurt. Nobody wants to think that their wife has been murdered in their house while they sit in the living room. What kind of a man do you think it makes me feel like knowing that I was sitting in there while some was in there killing my wife?
People don't go straight in the house and know exactly where your keys are at to take the keys either.
I know, that doesn't make sense either.
He confronted Peter about the footprint in the kitchen, explaining that he was the only one that could have done this.
The person who did this did not break into your house and put on your socks and kill your wife. You're wearing my socks. It makes no sense. It didn't make any sense. They sneak into your room, put on your socks, kill your wife, go get the keys where nobody knew except for you and your kids, and leave without anybody hearing it. It makes no sense at all. It doesn't happen. Hey, Peter? I did not. Why? I could not explain this. I don't know what happened. Why would somebody put on your socks and kill your wife? I have no idea. I did not harm my wife. When this thing comes to a head and a jury believes you stabbed your wife 46 times, they're going to put you in the electric chair. I did not do it. I'm innocent and I know it. And my kids know it. If I lose, I lose. I lose my kids lose their father, but at least I go down knowing that I didn't do this and had nothing to do with this.
It was clear that Peter wasn't going to confess anytime soon. Since all of the evidence linking him to the crime thus far was circumstantial, Peter was free to leave. The investigators believed that it was only a matter of time before Peter would be back at the station in cuffs. By this point in the investigation, the Allen household was no longer needed, so the Allen family was allowed to go back home. Peter's good friend, Verl Wolverton, drove from Arkansas to Texas to support the family through this hard time. Even he found it strange that Peter didn't hear Manu being attacked, so he decided to do an experiment with Darian. Darian went into the master bedroom and screamed as loud as he could while Verl sat on the living room couch. Verl couldn't hear anything. He and Darian swapped places, and Darian could hardly hear anything as well. They took this information straight to the investigators. The investigators weren't fully convinced that Peter was innocent, but they didn't want to get tunnel vision, so they decided to look into some other possibilities. Although there were no signs of a forced entry, perhaps this really was a burglary gone wrong. After all, it was well known in the community that Peter was an avid gun collector, and there was another gun burglary in Olney just a month prior. One of the main suspects in that burglary was 17-year-old Corey Taylor. Corey was a student at Olney High School, where Peter and Manu were teachers. He was known to cause trouble and had several run-ins with the police in the past. Sergeant Burbeck was tasked with bringing Corey down to the station for an interview. When he arrived at Corey's apartment complex, he noticed a bike under the stairs leading up to Corey's apartment. He inspected the wheels, and the tread pattern looked very similar to the tracks left in the mud near Manu's body. When Burbeck spoke to Corey, he asked whose bike it was, and Corey told him that it belonged to his friend Julius Mullins. When Burbeck told Ranger Schraub about the bike and said that it belonged to Julius Mullins, alarm bells rang. Schraub recognized that name. It turns out that the day after Melanie was interviewed, she actually went to the police station with something to tell the investigators. While trying to figure out who could have killed her mother, someone came to mind. Her ex-boyfriend, Julius Mullins, the same person that Peter brought up during his interrogation.
He got mad at my older daughters and they were breaking up, so I'm not saying he's suspect. I'm saying that you know.
She provided a written statement to the police saying that she, quote, knew for a fact that when Julius was younger, he used to be in a gang, partook in drugs, and had killed people. At the time that Melanie told them this, the detectives were hyper-focused on investigating Peter, and they weren't sure if there was any weight behind her statement. But now that they had compared his bike tires to the tracks at the crime scene, they were eager to bring him in for an interview. Sergeant Burbeck brought Corey along while he picked up Julius, and all three of them went back to the station. Corey was then brought into the interrogation room with Ranger Shea, while Julius waited in another room.
First of all, you understand you're not under arrest or anything like that. You're just...
Corey said that he hardly knew the Allens and had never been inside their home.
You've never been in there?
With the 13 years that I lived in Olney, I barely even talked to Melanie.
At this point, the investigators weren't really concerned about Corey's involvement. They were more interested in what Corey knew about Julius. Apparently, Julius had a reputation of getting in trouble with the law. When he was in middle school, he spent some time at a juvenile detention center. And more recently, he had been charged with the possession of marijuana. His father didn't want this kind of behavior around Julius's younger brothers. So he told Julius to smarten up or find somewhere else to live. Since then, Julius had been couch surfing at different people's houses, including Corey's. Apparently, when Melanie broke up with him, Julius was heartbroken. His behavior shifted and he became extremely unpredictable. Corey was especially concerned when Julius started recklessly handling guns around his family.
They started bringing guns in my house. He scared me and my grandma. How did he scare you? He just acts a little iffy.
The investigators wondered if Julius's recent interest in guns motivated him to steal from Peter's extensive gun collection.
So what has he told you about Miss Allen going missing?
He hasn't really said anything to me, but it's weird how like he didn't even cry or nothing. And he supposedly was real close with Melanie's mom, so I mean, I would cry if I would get closer because she was nesting in the hall, so.
Do you think Julius had anything to do with it?
He might have something to do with it, because, I mean, he's been in the house. He knows what it looks like. He probably knows where everything's at.
Corey's interview was concluded, and it was now time for Julius to face questioning.
Tell me about Miss Allen.
Julius said that for the year that he was with Melanie, Manu had treated him like family. She even let him stay at their house for a while when he was having problems at home.
She's probably one of the people that's actually helped me the most. She was like basically kind of like my other mom because she like helped me out and stuff. She helped me get my together. She was a really nice lady.
So how long did you and Melanie date?
I think about a year and a couple months.
Was there any type of beef between you and her parents at all?
No, the only time beef I think was just between me and her dad because I was dating her.
Why'd y'all break up?
She said she wanted a break, and then I was like, okay, I'm fine with that.
Although Julius was acting nonchalant about his breakup with Melanie, Corey said that the breakup left Julius devastated. He became antisocial at school and constantly texted Melanie saying that he wanted to get back together. Julius said that he was in disbelief when she told him about her mom's death.
She was like, my mom was murdered, and I was like, what do you mean? And she said, my mother's blood all over the floor and the room and stuff. And I was shocked, like it hit me like hard.
Who do you think did this?
I really don't know.
Is their daughter torn up pretty bad? You want me to be honest with you, Julian?
Yes, sir.
They think you did it.
Yeah, I know.
Apparently, Melanie had accused Julius of being involved in her mother's murder.
She was like, a murderous bastard killed my mother, and then she said all these other things like towards me. She was like, was it you and Brandon Hollins? Like, did y'all plan this? I wanted to like look at her and be like, are you serious? I was like, Melanie, I was like, I still love you. I would never do something like that to you.
When the detective asked Julius where he was on the night of the murder, he said that he was at Corey's house playing video games. At this point, the detectives were unable to make any more progress questioning Julius, so they collected his DNA and fingerprints and he was free to leave. They immediately compared these fingerprints to the ones found on Manu's car. They were a match. They also obtained a warrant for Julius's phone data, and on the night of Manu's murder, his phone connected to the Allen House Wi-Fi. Julius was swiftly brought back in for another interview, and he was confronted with this evidence.
There's stuff that I already know that you don't know I already know. So don't lie to me. Yes, okay? This is your opportunity to help yourself out as much as you can, because you're wrapped up in this deal and you don't want to get any deeper than what you already are. Okay? When was the last time you were over there at their house?
A month ago.
So it's been a month since you've been over there.
Yeah.
Why the night that Miss Allen was killed would your phone be pinging off their Wi-Fi?
My phone, I didn't go over there that night. I was literally at Corey's.
Why would your fingerprints be on that vehicle in blood?
I don't know.
The detective spent much of this interview asking these same questions over and over, reiterating that Julius would face the consequences if he didn't tell the truth.
Your butt's looking at some time in prison if you don't tell me the truth, if they don't give you the death penalty.
But Julius wasn't biting. He adamantly denied any involvement in Manu's murder.
What would be the reason that your fingerprints would be in blood on her car? Or your DNA?
No, I really don't know.
There is no reason. In her
cuts like
no,
everywhere on my hand, dude.
In her blood.
I didn't murder Miss Allen.
Okay, I didn't say you did.
Well, you're saying like I did.
Although it was clear that Julius was lying about his involvement, there wasn't any definitive proof that he was the one who killed Manu. Another possibility was that Peter had killed Manu and asked Julius to help get rid of the body. According to everyone who knew Julius, he was desperate to get back together with Melanie. So perhaps Julius saw this as an opportunity to do her dad a favor and to ultimately get closer to his daughter.
When was the last time that you communicated with Peter? Okay, because if there's communication and you're not telling me there's communication.
I promise you there's not. I don't have his phone number. I literally don't have I don't have a SIM card.
If somebody called you and says, hey, I screwed up, I gotta get rid of this body, and you help out and you let me know that, then I can help you out as much as I can. What I'm getting at is, did you help somebody cover it up and get rid of the body? Hey, look at me. If you didn't kill her, I need to know. But if you helped get rid of the body, I need to know that too.
Didn't get rid of the body. I didn't kill her. I didn't.
No matter how much the detective applied pressure, Julius continued to deny his involvement. The detectives decided to wait until all of the evidence was analyzed before charging Julius with anything, so he was free to go for now. A few hours later, Ranger Schraub went to Corey's apartment to pick up Julius's bike and crossed paths with Julius. He asked Julius if he could take a look at the bottom of his shoe, and he noticed that it matched the shoe print left in the mud where Manu's body was dumped. The detectives went to the judge and presented all of the evidence they had gathered. An arrest warrant was granted. Julius was tracked down again, arrested, and brought back to the station for one more interview.
We know that you were out there, but not only that, we know your shoes were out there. And not only that, but we know your bicycle was out there. I don't think you're 100% responsible for this. Yeah, I know it took more than one person to just move that body. You think you're going to help her or help her dad or help whatever and help you get closer to you. And so I just want you to explain to me why all those different things are pointing towards you.
Throughout the interview, Julius would answer the odd question here and there, but nothing that would incriminate him further. Whenever the detective brought up the evidence against him or asked him how he got into this situation, Julius went silent.
Why you're not getting us a little more information, I don't know. Are you the sole person responsible for this? Just tell me how it happened, how you got involved.
However, after enough persistence, the detective had a breakthrough.
You want to talk about this somewhere else besides this room? Is the camera keeping you from talking? I'll talk to you, so. Yeah.
After a quick smoke break and a change of environment, Julius was finally ready to talk.
You already know who did it.
Who are you talking about? You talking about Peter Allen? How did Peter Allen get a hold of you?
What was that, Allsup's?
Allsup's is a convenience store located right around the corner from the Allen home. Julius said that he ran into Peter there, and Peter told him to get into his car. Once inside Peter's car, he pulled out a gun and pointed it at Julius.
He was like, I'm only going to tell you this once. If you tell anybody else, I'm going to kill your entire family. He told me he unlocked that window. And he told me, here's what's going to happen. You're going to go in there.
Julius began choking up, but the detective comforted him and encouraged him to keep going.
You're doing what's right. What did he tell you to do after you got in there?
He told me he left a butterfly knife on the counter, and that that's what I would have to use to kill her.
What time did you go to the house?
Like 2.
2 a.m.? And what did you do?
He told me exactly what to do. He told me to go for her head.
How many times do you think you stabbed her in the head?
I don't remember.
A bunch?
Yeah. She screamed a lot.
Manu fought through the knife attack and ran for the door, but Julius slammed her on the ground and strangled her.
He was just sitting there on the couch and he watched me do it.
He couldn't see you from there, right? In the bedroom?
He knew I was there.
So Mr. Allen just sat in the living room the whole time?
He helped me take her and put her in the car.
How'd you get her to her final spot?
I had to drag her.
Did you shoot her at the lake? After she was already dead?
Yeah, he told me to do it.
So you shot her right there?
I didn't even know if I hit her or not. I just
Crazy.
ran.
As chilling as this confession was, Julius cried the entire time, showing clear signs of remorse.
Hey, I see all sorts of remorse in you. You're not that bad of a person.
I killed the ace and lost.
You made a bad decision. Wish you would have called us.
He said he was going to kill my family if I did that. And I believe him. He's a Green Beret.
Following this interview, Julius was charged with first-degree murder and taken straight to jail. Now that Manu's murderer was behind bars, the detectives were ready to hone in on Peter, the one who orchestrated it all. However, after a thorough investigation, the detectives were unable to corroborate Julius's allegations against Peter. There was no evidence of their encounter in the Allsup's parking lot, and Peter's DNA wasn't found anywhere that would be incriminating. Even the compression sock that was covered in blood had Julius's DNA on it, not Peter's. Ultimately, Julius was the only one to be charged in connection to Manu's death. He pled guilty to first-degree murder, tampering with a human corpse, and burglary of a habitation. He was sentenced to 55 years in prison and will be eligible for parole after 28 years.
Yeah.
Since being in prison, he has recanted his accusations against Peter and has openly admitted to being the sole perpetrator. He claims that he only broke into the house because he wanted to steal Peter's guns, but when things went south, he panicked and attacked Manu because he didn't want to go to jail. He currently resides in the All Red Unit in North Iowa Park, Texas, and is projected to be released in the year 2074.
Damn. I'll keep it pushing though. This one is woman discovers boyfriend's horrifying secret. Let's do it.
I know that Naomi would not run away from home. I done looked underneath the bed. I done looked in the closet. I've looked everywhere. I was like, well, maybe she's just hiding, planning to go sleep with you in the house. He's like, no, mama, she's not here.
She's got to be somewhere in some water and some wood somewhere, but I didn't think it was going to be like.
Pulled up and smelled something. I thought it was a hog. I walked back up the rail just a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hog.
When 12-year-old Naomi Jones woke up on May 31, 2017 at her home in Pensacola, Florida, she had no idea the horror waiting just around the corner. Later that day, her mother received a call from Naomi's 2 younger brothers. They were fine, but there was no sign of Naomi, who was in charge of watching over them. As an investigation into her disappearance gets underway, those looking for Naomi have no idea just how close she is the entire time.
I had 2 missed calls and I thought it was, I was like, who is this number? And then I realized through text messages, I was like, oh, that's let me call him back. And it was, and he was like, Mom, I ain't seen Naomi. I done looked underneath the bed. I done looked in the closet. I've looked everywhere. I was like, well, maybe she's just hiding, planning to go sleep with you in the house. He's like, no, mama, she's not here.
Knowing her 12-year-old daughter would never abandon her brothers under anything less than extreme circumstances, Naomi's mother, Shantara Hurry, left work and rushed home to search for her daughter. When there was no sign of Naomi, Shantara called the police to report her missing. Authorities took the report of a missing child seriously and jumped into action. Right away, they began canvassing the apartment complex where Naomi and her family lived and surrounding neighborhood, as well as organizing a foot search. Their efforts quickly turned up some distressing evidence. Outside the complex on the side of the road was a lock of dark brown hair. Naomi had a hair weave, and investigators suspected that this hair could have been torn or pulled free during a struggle. This theory was further supported when they found an additional lock of hair some feet away in the grass. Police, along with Naomi's friends and family, distributed missing person posters around the area. They also interviewed all of the residents at the apartment complex, including Naomi's younger brothers. Because they were the last to see Naomi before she vanished, it was important that police learn everything they could from the boys. However, interviewing a 10-year-old and a 4-year-old was no simple task. Most of the following footage has never been seen before.
I was in the bathroom there. My sister had walked outside and my brother told me Naomi's gone. And I went outside to look and then I called my mom.
What did you use to call her?
My next door neighbor's phone.
Were there any other phones in the house?
My sister's phone.
Tell me how come Naomi didn't take her phone?
I think it was because she wasn't going anywhere for it. She takes her phone everywhere with her.
While the boys were being questioned, police also took the opportunity to speak more with Shantara. She was more certain than ever that Naomi had not left home by choice.
I know that Naomi would not run away from home. I also know that if it was somebody that she knew, she still would not have left her 2 siblings at home by themselves. If they feel any unction that Naomi is going somewhere, they hop right up, they're her shadow. You get what I'm saying? So I'm even wondering if my baby even has shoes on. Because I'm looking at all her shoes and whatever, and I don't see any shoes missing. You get what I'm saying? Like, if her not to say, Naomi, I'm going with you. It was nothing that gave my 4-year-old the unction that Naomi was really going far.
In addition to insight into Naomi's character, Shantara was also willing to share some of her suspicions about who may have been involved in Naomi's disappearance. The person of most interest, according to her, should be Naomi's father, Robert Jones.
What's your gut tell you about this whole thing?
Robert, I just want to try to figure out who lured her. It's not really much that can really lure her in either besides her father. The person who she wants to get her attention from, the person she hasn't seen in so long.
The police dutifully followed up with Naomi's father. Despite Shantara's certainty that he may have been involved, police found nothing to suggest that was the case. With his alibi verified, investigators moved on to questioning all of those in Naomi's immediate vicinity. Combined with an ongoing foot search for Naomi, this was no small task, and the FBI soon joined the search for Naomi. In addition to conducting interviews, police obtained search warrants for several nearby units. One such unit belonged to Lauren. Police were particularly interested in her apartment as it had a direct line of sight to Naomi's back deck, where the girl was known to often dance. They were concerned that her dancing could have attracted unwanted, inappropriate attention. In the course of searching the apartment, investigators discovered that Lauren's boyfriend, Robert Howard, spent a good deal of time at the residence, despite having his own home about an hour away.
How long have you been with Robert?
About 2 years.
About 2 years? Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's go back to, obviously this has been in the news for a week now about the little girl at your apartment complex, Naomi. What kind of girl was she? Was she friendly? Was she kind of...
She seemed like she was kind of friendly, just like a little girl. She would just, do like little dances on the back patio if I was out washing or before my washer broke.
Does Robert live with you?
No.
So explain to me how that works out, because he's up in Bruton at work and he also keeps the place up there too.
Mm-hmm.
Like averaging a week, how many times do you stay the night at your house?
He always stays Friday and Saturday night because he's off. But
just depending on his work schedule, he'll come. And if you're at work, does he stay there without you sometimes?
Mm-hmm.
The story will only take a bizarre turn from here. In the course of performing due diligence, police looked into Robert, and what they found sent alarm bells ringing.
What do you know about his past?
I know that he got convicted of back in the late 90s, right after high school.
Do you know the details of it at all? Or what he's told you?
Some details on that. That there was a girl who accused him of her and not being able to afford any kind of lawyer or anything like that. He just, he could publish it from there. He was telling me about witnesses that wouldn't take his witnesses on his side, and they just listened to her, whoever that her people had for her.
In 1999, Robert Howard was convicted of 2 counts of assault in the state of Alabama. He served 15 years in prison before being released on probation in 2014. Since then, he'd been registered as an offender. Upon learning this, police were immediately suspicious that he could have been involved in Naomi's disappearance and brought him in. Robert informs the police that he was at the gym on the morning of the incident and returned to Lauren's apartment around 11 a.m. Soon after, he went to see Lauren at work, and both returned home half an hour later as Lauren wanted to change her shirt. He further shares that they were only at the apartment for a short time and left again around noon so Lauren could go back to work. Robert tried to go to the dollar store but chose to stay in his car when it began storming. It seemed that Robert had a solid alibi for the entire day Naomi went missing.
And after that, I headed on out to Bruton to go see a friend before they went to a funeral.
This is where investigators began to question the series of events. According to Robert, he left Pensacola to visit a friend in Bruton, then turned around and drove an hour all the way back to Pensacola, then went back to Bruton again to clock in for work. It was clear that something wasn't adding up.
How come on Wednesday you went to Bruton, came home just to get your stuff, and then went right back to work?
I went to see my friend.
Uh-huh.
I mean, this is somebody that my girlfriend knows nothing about, so I went to see her. Because like I said, her uncle had passed. I'm going to see her.
Right. How come you didn't take your stuff with you, though? That just seems like a whole lot of driving to me.
I do a lot of driving, believe it or not. But, I mean, I was dressed. I mean, I just didn't have my boots or my rain gear. So I had to come back to get in.
Do you know who Naomi is?
Yes, I know exactly who she is. I see her. Well, you see her every time we're in and out the apartment. Her and her brother's either out there playing with their dog, or they're on that back balcony, or they're in between the apartments playing.
Had you seen her at all that day?
No, ma'am. I ran into, I don't know the little girl's mom's name, but her and another older lady as I was getting ready to get into the car to head back to Bruton for work. And that's when she asked me, have I seen her daughter? Yeah, I was coming down the steps as I put my boots in the back seat, and I was getting ready to get into the car. Actually, her friend that was with her asked me first, have I seen a little girl? And I'm like, well, no, ma'am, I just came out the apartment. And she was like, well, it's my daughter. And I'm like, well, no, ma'am. She was like, well, she's missing. And I stood there and talked with them for a minute before I left.
This incident would have chilling implications later. While it was odd, it was far from a reason to detain Robert further. Police would confirm his alibis, but for now, they focused their attention on those closer to Naomi. For example, they interviewed Shantara's ex-boyfriend, Bruce.
Naomi's birthday was fit to come up, and she asked me for a pair of Space Jam Jordan shoes.
But you said you were just over there at like a little cookout or something, right? Like a month ago?
No, her mom called me over there. They was cooking shrimp and fish or something like that. And I went over.
Naomi texted you wanting certain shoes.
Yeah, she wanted the shoes, the Space Jams. And I said, since you've been good and you kept your grades up, I said, listen to your mama, obey your mama, follow what your mama say, and I get you them shoes. Then her mom's fall out. I don't text her nothing because she's saying I owe her $70.
According to what Bruce told police, his conversation with Naomi was simply his attempt to be a positive influence in her life. He also stated that he'd recently come back in contact with the family and thought they were on good terms. But when Shantara told him to stop talking to her daughter, he said that he respected her wishes and ceased all contact. Before parting ways with the investigation, Bruce gave some insight into Naomi's behavior.
Let me tell you something. Naomi don't go nowhere, sir. She don't let them kids out the house.
The boys were home. They stayed in the house.
Naomi don't go outside like that. Naomi like the phone. She like computers. She like to be in her room. She like to be by herself.
You ever see her go anywhere without her phone?
The phone was left in the house.
No.
It seemed that everyone who knew Naomi was sure that she would not wander off on her own. As time ticked on with no further signs of Naomi, the case was looking increasingly grim. The foot search continued, expanding to cover a 3-mile radius surrounding Naomi's home. But despite the monumental effort of the local police and the FBI, nobody could find any trace of Naomi. Police went through her phone and contacts. There they discovered messages from a man by the name of Tridarius Gray, who at 18 was 6 years older than Naomi. When they looked into the relationship further, investigators saw a few potential red flags and headed out to his residence to get some answers.
Okay, Tridarius, so you know Naomi, correct?
Mm-hmm.
How do you know Naomi?
Went to school with her.
Okay, what grades were you in school with her?
I was in 8th, and I don't know what grade she was in.
Okay, she would have been elementary? Okay. And so you've known her for how long, would you say?
3-4 years.
Okay. So with that friendship that y'all kind of have, is it just like a close friendship? Y'all text every now and then? Kind of describe your relationship with her.
No, she just takes me out of nowhere.
While it was ultimately determined that Tridarius had nothing to do with the Naomi Jones case, this wasn't the last time he would be under police scrutiny. Almost 5 years later, in 2022, Tridarius Gray was involved in a serious crime where he shot his ex-girlfriend, Jacavia Simmons, and then took his own life. For Naomi's case, however, one phone call was about to change the trajectory of the entire investigation.
Girl when he's 18.
On June 5th, less than a week after Naomi went missing, 2 individuals contacted emergency dispatch to report a gruesome discovery that would change everything.
Are you hell do we like to have this fish so much?
You guys were fishing?
No.
No?
We work together, and we really like to fish. Well, you know, that bridge has just been complete recently that I remember, and we were right there and we wanted to stop. You know, I was like, hey, we'll go check that out on the way back, because we were 2 blocks up the road on the corner putting in a garage door. Well, we finished and said, okay. So we pulled over. And we pulled over, you know, just to look, because we like to fish. That's something that's one of the perks of our jobs, is we can stop and fish.
Mm-hmm.
Well, pulled up and smelled something. I thought it was a hog, you know, because the color and everything. I thought somebody did skin a hog. Well, walked back up the rail just a little bit.
Yeah.
It wasn't a hog.
Yeah.
Tragically, what they discovered in the water was none other than the remains of Naomi Jones. Her body was in an advanced state of decomposition, which, combined with shock, is likely why the men did not immediately recognize what they were seeing.
I mean, we didn't go down. We knew as soon as we saw, both started calling 911. We both knew what we had to do and just sat right there and waited. We didn't want to move, but the initial, before we even saw what was happening, we both leaned over the rail to look at the water.
Yeah.
And caught it.
Crime scene officials rushed to secure the area and recover her remains. Naomi's body was found floating in the water below 8 Mile Bridge, about 4 miles from her home. The foot search for Naomi had only covered 3. Naomi was wearing the red tank top she had last been seen in, but her American flag print shorts and underwear were missing. After locating the body, investigators likely weren't surprised when the medical examiner ruled Naomi's death a homicide. Now that they know they were hunting a killer, the entire investigation shifted. And as it so happened, Naomi's neighbor Robert Howard had never really left the police's radar. Part of Robert's previous statement had raised a red flag for investigators.
I was coming down the steps as I put my boots in the back seat, and I was getting ready to get into the car.
On its own, this statement is unimportant. Police likely wouldn't have noticed anything wrong with it if Robert hadn't contradicted himself just a few minutes later.
I mean, I was dressed. I just didn't have my boots or my rain gear. Mm-hmm. So I had to come back to get in.
When he was brought back to the station, Robert was left alone for about half an hour before detectives started what would turn out to be an exhausting, frustrating, and disturbing interrogation.
Let me take that. Yeah.
Is it all right if I just stand up in the room and stretch my legs and stuff?
Yeah, he's gonna come in and get your buckles in a second. But yeah, you can get up and stretch your legs.
That I'm all on back 4.
What's that? Buckles? Well, we're just gonna go over some of the stuff. The other investigator talked to you earlier this morning. Mm-hmm. I had a chance to read over everything, and I had a couple questions I didn't get to ask you because I was busy. Okay. All right.
Once the DNA collection is complete, investigators then casually mention his Miranda rights before commencing what will likely be one of the most harrowing interrogations they have ever conducted.
The missing girl, have you ever seen her around the complex or?
See her all the time when we were in and out. They would always speak whenever we would come in and out. Other than that, everybody.
She dances a lot back there, doesn't she? On the balcony.
Well, they be back there playing most of the time when I see them as far as dancing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Was she friendly? I mean,
she always spoke. I say other than that, that's pretty much all I know about her. Like I said, she would always speak. If she seen us, she would speak. Regardless if we seen her or not, she would let us know that she was there. She would speak.
Investigators likely took note of this, and instead of easing off as Robert had likely hoped, they pressed harder.
Did she ever come over to y'all's apartment or anything? So
I've never been to Lauren's. If she has, she's been there when I wasn't there. And if I'm not mistaken, I think Lauren told me one day that they missed the bus and they came and used her phone to call their mom and let her know they missed the bus. Other than that, that's all I know about them being there.
Okay.
Have they ever been in your cars?
No.
Either one of your cars?
No.
Did you see that girl that Wednesday at all?
No, sir.
When was the last time you saw her?
I have no idea. It may have been that weekend, maybe between Friday and Sunday.
How often do you stay at that apartment?
With my regulations of what I can and can't do, I'm allowed to stay anywhere 3 days, no more than 3 days. So I'll stay like 2-3 days at a time. I go home for a day. I can come back for 3 more days. So that's how I usually do.
You said that the missing girl was never in your car or anything like that?
Mm-hmm.
And the only interaction you've had with her is just like...
If I see her, she sees me, or she sees however we were, she speaks. That's it.
Do you hang out in any certain areas of Pensacola, or what do you do when you're here in Pensacola?
We're pretty much at the apartment.
The police ask Robert if he's ever been in the Lincoln Park area. At first, he says no, then eventually concedes that he occasionally goes to church on the outskirts of the neighborhood. The discovery of Naomi's remains in the same area casts further doubt on Robert's initial denial of any connection to that part of the neighborhood, raising further suspicions about his involvement.
Your car, describe it to me. You said it's silver.
It's a silver 2010 Nissan Altima. Nothing special about it. Has a
2-door, 4-door?
4-door, yeah.
4-door. You know, tinted windows, rims.
Tinted windows, no rims.
As the investigators delve deeper, certain details don't only distress them, but also serve to solidify some of their suspicions.
What kind of girls are you into? I mean, what do you like?
Like grown women. I mean, women is my age. I mean, like I really have no preference of what size or
grown women.
You know, how fat or how skinny, how tall or how thin. But they're gonna be legal. You know, I don't fool with no kids. I don't mess with no teenagers. Anything like that.
Weird.
I got you. I mean, you like younger girls, like.
I mean, I haven't been with anyone younger than Lauren.
What's the youngest girl you've been with?
Lauren is the youngest girl I've been with.
She's 30?
30, yes.
In response, investigators drop a surprise reality check to rattle Robert further.
What if I were to tell you that your car was in the area where her body was found that night?
No, that's impossible.
Why?
I mean, because it could have been.
Why? Tell me why.
Because when I have my car, it's either at work. When I leave work, I come straight back to
Eileen, thank you for the heart. Welcome in.
Did anybody else have your car that night?
No one ever has my car.
So you don't know, does Lauren ever drive your car?
She has a few times, but it's been a little while since she drove my car.
You don't ever loan your car out?
No.
Given his earlier statement about visiting a friend in Bruton for a funeral, police followed up on his alibi in an interview with Yolanda Mitchell, who was willing to challenge part of Robert's statement.
The only reason that I remember May 31st is because that is the day of my uncle's funeral. That's the only reason I remember that day. And he did not know that that was the day of my uncle's funeral. He did not know when I was going. He did not know what time the funeral was going to be. And I told the detectives that called me, I don't delete text messages. So I have all the text messages that we've ever sent to each other. And I think it was about 12:57 that I sent him a text that said, please pray for me and my family. This is going to be hard. And he texted me back like at 1:02 or something like that. I don't remember what he said. He said something about, are you okay? Or do you need to talk? Or something of that nature.
The thing about that is that we already have your phone records.
Okay.
And you were at the apartments at 1:30.
I was gone at 1:30.
Phone records show no, you were there at 1:30. That phone number
Busted.
you gave me is the phone number we subpoenaed for the records. You were at the apartments at 1:30.
I was on my way to Bruton.
You were I'm not going to argue with you.
I mean, you don't have to argue, but
Exactly,
okay, just
Busted.
okay. You say I was at the apartment. Just please search my life. Nothing has been changed in my car since the day that the first officer flipped through it and looked through it. Everything's in there. If you find anything in that car, it's gonna be from Yolanda Mitchell, where she sits in that front seat and talks to me. Other than that, that's it.
While Robert insists on his innocence, he likely doesn't know that the investigators have already spoken with Yolanda and gathered more incriminating information against him. She also revealed that he hadn't been completely upfront with the investigators about the nature of their relationship.
What was your relationship with him? It's not going to here. It's not going to be anything we're going to ever bring up other than maybe,
friends, but more than friends.
Okay.
Nobody really knew about our relationship.
Okay.
Investigators now get more aggressive in their approach as they push him further to the edge of truth.
I think one or two things happen. You either have a fetish or were attracted to Naomi and you got her to get in your car and things might have gotten, let's say, a little carried away, or either you're just a stone cold killer, man. I mean, it's one or the other.
Neither, because I never got her to get in my car. She's never been in my car. That's why I've never cleaned my house. I've never cleaned my car because of that. So I feel like if I clean that car and y'all find it clean, oh, well, he cleaned it before we can get to it. That's why I didn't do that.
Why would you even think?
Because the day that when they looked through the day that they questioned us, I had to get a brake job done. I told.
What day were you questioned?
Friday.
Okay.
And I told the guy, I said, well, I had an appointment to get a brake job done at 10. I said, I'm not leaving because y'all questioned me. The other guy that was with him came, looked through my trunk. He opened my back seat, looked in it, front seat looked in it. And from that day there,
soap in there.
I said, don't clean this car out. Because I feel like, it's eventually going to come. So I'm already, have a status offender. So whatever I have is going to be searched. I feel like that anyway.
Right.
Because I'm already a potential suspect. Again, you say that?
But wouldn't you agree you had time to clean the car before you were even questioned?
Sure, but I didn't. There was no need to. I told Lauren the same thing.
What made you feel that way?
Like I just told you. I feel like, when you look through it, I'm right there at the complex where this child's missing. I'm right there. I'm already, like I said, from the status is over my head already. So I'm right there. So he's right here. So why not just check him out?
Right.
That's why.
What police don't mention is that they've already done exactly that, and what they found inside made their blood run cold.
We have your car on video. We have your phone records that show your exact route from where you were at, from the apartments to Bruton, back down to where she was found, back to, and they show exactly which route you went. You can't deny it. It's your phone number. It's your phone number and your phone records. You could keep denying it, or you can tell me what really happened and give your story of what happened. She's a cute girl. She looks a little older. Maybe you guys had something and...
how can we have something? I've never been around the child.
How do you explain, though? How do you explain that your phone is showing that you're going in those directions?
If you say this is showing, if you say you got my car on video and you say this is showing all this, let me see it. Because there's no way that, none of that.
Me too, I believe.
There's no way.
All right, I'll show you.
Big bull.
What's that?
A Nissan Altima.
Okay, and what is that supposed to mean?
That's your car.
How's it? Okay, so how are you just going to tell me that's my car out of...
It's your car. Because your phone puts you in that exact spot that car is at the exact time that car is on that video.
Okay, if you say so.
We don't say so. I mean, that's what the evidence says.
That is not my car. That's not my car. That child's never been in my car.
Lying.
I've never had that child in my car. Like I said, me and that child has never been in spitting distance of each other.
Lying.
Never.
While Robert continues to build on his web of lies, investigators have solid proof. According to the medical reports, Naomi had been assaulted before her death. Before even breaking the evidence seal on the door of the vehicle, crime scene investigators noticed what could have been blood on the back end of the vehicle. When police inspected the interior of the car, they found similar stains on the back seat. As Robert fiercely denies ever having Naomi in his car, the investigators, certain they have him cornered, become increasingly confrontational.
So you are a cold-blooded murderer. Because you're sitting here deny. You don't care. You just put it like you just deny everything and lie because we have proof that you're lying.
But this child has never been in
my
car.
A 12-year-old baby is dead, and you're sitting here lying through the whole thing about where you were for some reason.
I've never had her.
Must have stashed her somewhere.
I've never had her.
Abilene, every time he opened his mouth, a lie.
She's never been with me.
Hi,
She
Shonda.
has.
Welcome in.
You killed her.
No, I did not.
What'd you do then?
I didn't do anything.
You were that baby.
Okay. I can't argue with what you think or how you feel about it. I can just.
She just turned 12. She's 11 years old.
I did not touch that child. I did not have that child.
Investigators found a windbreaker on the back seat of his car that was also stained with what could be blood. Chillingly, there was a copy of Naomi's missing person flyer on the dashboard, along with cleaning supplies in the trunk. Also in the trunk, alongside the cleaning supplies, were a pair of boots that Robert said he'd forgotten at home. A second pair of boots were also in the back seat.
The blood they found on the side of the vehicle.
Only on the side of it.
Yes.
What if I blood on the side of it?
On the passenger side, in front of the rear tire.
The most damning evidence investigators found while searching Robert's vehicle was blood on the exterior of the car, below one of the back doors. This could have been left when a body was put in or taken out of the vehicle. With all this information, police knew they were on the right track before Robert even started trying to sell them his story.
Was she scared?
I don't know who she was. I didn't have her.
Did she cry?
I didn't have her.
Did she try to fight? I heard she was a fighter.
I never had her, so I don't know. You asking me things that
Did she have a chance to fight?
I don't know. I have no idea. You asking me things that I don't know nothing about. She wasn't with me. I didn't have her, so I don't know what she could have did, fought, cry,
She cried
whatever.
for her mama?
I have no idea.
Did she beg you to stop?
I don't know what you're talking about because she was not with me. She was not with me. All aside, all aside. No, I said I don't know nothing about this kid.
And that's fine. I just want to know why you were over there.
When I came home, sometimes when I come home at night, I ride around to see what I can find out to hook up with.
Okay.
That's what I was doing.
Did you hook up with anybody that night?
No.
No, you didn't find it? Do you know that area or you just were driving
I just was
around?
driving. Just
Okay.
was driving.
What if I could tell you that you stopped on that bridge?
Where?
Right there where she was found. When you turn off Detroit on the Ashland there, you go up past that business a little ways and there's a bridge there with big concrete things and rails on top of it.
Yeah. Well, that's not the only place. The only time I stopped when I got back after that corner. That stop sign.
You never stopped on that bridge? You sure about that?
Yes.
Thought we were being truthful.
We are.
No, we're not. You stopped on the bridge to put her body in the water.
Damn it, man.
Naomi's body.
Did you throw her over the rail or did you drag her around the side? That's the question I had. I was wondering about.
I did not dump nobody. I did not dump a body anywhere. She was not in my car. Anything.
She in your trunk?
No. No. Not at all.
Why are you stopped on that bridge a minute and a half, 2 minutes?
And I did not stop on the bridge.
The video shows otherwise.
Okay.
It's undeniable that you stopped.
You said a minute and a half, stop, minute and a half, 2 minutes.
Yes.
If something like that was to happen, then you got clear-cut picture if that's the case.
He asked you, why'd you stop?
I did not stop.
The reason police were confident about Robert stopping at the bridge was because a good Samaritan, Charles Wright, had come to their aid. While Charles wasn't directly connected to the investigation, he had an interesting reason for coming forward to speak with police.
What made you go there to look for her?
Because, like I said, I don't know them per se, but if it was somebody in my family, I want somebody to look. And I just, any water, woods that I can think of, that's where I go.
And then you just stopped real quick
Right.
just to check.
Right.
Okay.
Because, I mean, like I was telling her, she's got to be somewhere in some water and some woods somewhere, but I didn't think it was going to be like.
Where you checked.
In a strange turn of events, Charles's assumption that she had to be in water or in the woods was right, and despite a random search, he stumbled upon the exact area Naomi would later be found.
Try to remember exactly what you saw when you looked down. Did anything look disturbed? Anything look out of place? Notice anything just a little off, odd?
Not really, because it also rained Saturday too. If I'm not mistaken, I think it rained Friday too.
I think it rained a lot this week.
Yeah. It's just, sometimes it's just like kind of junky over there anyway. Like I said, people throw debris over there a lot, like deer carcass, stuff like that, trash. But maybe I don't know if I overlooked, but like I said, once you lean over the, nothing. So
While he wasn't the one to discover the body, Charles's knowledge of when her remains weren't in the water was invaluable. Police now knew that the body was likely not disposed of until after Charles checked under the bridge. Thanks to the medical examination, they also knew that the body had been in the water for at least a few days. This put a rough boundary on the period during which the body must have been dumped, a timeline strikingly in sync with Robert's movements that night. As Robert continues to play hardball, investigators pivot to asking him questions that might likely trigger him into confessing.
Do you have problems getting?
Never have. Never have. And as far as me a 12-year-old, I never.
Probably did. Probably tried to,
How about you and Lauren?
You know, even that kind of child don't even appeal to me no kind of way. To the point of I would even think about trying to have with the child. That kind of stuff didn't cross my mind. I know nothing about this child.
This dude is lying.
Who she's been with, where she went, who she went with. I don't know nothing. Nothing. Or any other child for that matter. Had nothing to do with that.
Why would you say any other child?
I'm just saying.
That's what I was thinking.
Put it out there. Because I've never messed with a child, period. That's why I'm saying it.
Now is your time.
My time for
When we walk out that door, we're done. You're not going to have another chance to tell us your side of the story. I told you I could prove you stopped right around that bridge.
Okay.
And then, not only that, Robert, you stopped on there one time when you're coming back towards Detroit, and a car passes you, and you got spooked, and you go back to Detroit, and it's all on video, this part. You take a left, go down, and pull right in a driveway. Wait just a second, back up. You come back, turn back on the road, and go back to the bridge. And that's when you threw her body over.
Okay. Sounds good.
Am I wrong?
Yeah.
How?
Because I never stopped.
You stopped the car. You also pulled out and pulled into that driveway. You know good and well you did. Why'd you do it?
Why did I didn't?
Then why is your car doing it? Is an alien driving your car?
May have been.
You said nobody else drives your car.
They don't. But hell, I mean, if the alien gets it, I'm pretty sure hell I can't.
You said you're in your car at that time. And you're in that area. So who the else is driving it?
I have no idea.
You got a dead 12-year-old girl?
Okay.
And that's what you're going to go with?
And I'm sorry that she is.
Yeah.
When you're charged with murder?
How about this?
They probably do. Yep, she bringing out the other evidence too, Evelyn. Right on cue.
She looked the same.
She don't look the same. She don't look the same at all. I say I'm sorry about that, man. But like I say, I have nothing to do with that at all. Nothing.
No emotion. You're just a cold-hearted killer.
Robert has shown Naomi's image from the crime scene, another attempt to get a confession out of him, but it fails to elicit a response.
You know, that right there, not a normal reaction. People don't usually stare that hard.
Because I mean,
at
it's
that
just
picture
it's sickening.
as you are.
It's
no, it's not sickening. You're enjoying that.
No, what the hell am I?
You're enjoying that.
I promise you, I give you my
People
word.
usually turn that picture over and they can't even look at it. It's so awful.
I just want y'all to get that tested because, like I said, that is not her blood on my car. That is not hers. Where it comes from, I don't know, but it's not hers.
You don't even care.
No.
I understand that you may feel and think that.
No, I know you don't give.
Okay, that's just what I was going to say. You may feel and think that I don't give a. But as I told you before, I mean, I hate this happening to this child, but that's not my doing.
What's
not my doing at all.
What's going to happen is they're going to know that this is how you were acting. This is the denial, the lying, you know, pompous kind of attitude that you're giving.
How is it pompous?
Listen, but when you go up there and we're going to prove this case beyond a reasonable doubt, we're going to prove this case. And when you get up there and you're like, you know, begging, Judge, please don't give me the death penalty. I regret. I feel remorse. I'm sorry to the family. You know what?
That lady cop on his ass.
Right
I
here
like that.
is going to come into play because this is your true being right here. You don't give a that little girl is dead.
Okay. And you keep saying this. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah,
Believe me.
you're gonna be begging.
I understand exactly what you're saying. But I'm telling you, this has nothing to do with me. That's why I want you to get out, and I'd be glad when it's done to prove that blood on that car does not belong to this child. That's why I never cleaned my car, because I figured this would happen.
A short break later, when everyone reconvenes for hour 4 of the interview, the dynamic has changed, and so have the interviewers. The female investigator has been replaced, and the new investigator wastes no time in putting pressure on Robert.
I mean, you know the technology. You watch TV, you see all the... We can put you at the scene, video, and we can also put you there by your phone, right? We can agree on that, okay? You admit to being there. So you probably have the better chance of winning the lottery than you do of being where a girl is picked up and where she is dropped off, murdered, whatever you want to call it, disposed of. Basically like a piece of trash. Thrown over half naked, like a piece of trash.
12 years old, man.
It makes you look like just one sorry
Mamacita,
bastard.
welcome back. Good evening or good morning.
I did all that stopping. I did all that.
Why?
But I did not dump this body.
Was somebody else with you?
No, no one else was with me.
You were by yourself.
But I was told that something would be there.
What?
It wasn't this when I looked. Well, I didn't see this when I looked.
What was supposed to be there?
It was supposed to be as far as what exactly is it supposed to be something to benefit me, like that. Something to benefit me, I guess.
Some dead?
No, I don't hope not. But it was just supposed to be something, and I should have kept it. It was a note for me. What was a note on the car? All honesty, all aside. I said I never picked her up, never took her anywhere. And it says something to benefit you.
From Naomi?
No.
Who's it from?
It didn't have no name from nobody or to nobody. It was just on the car.
That is the absolute worst story I've ever heard.
I'm telling you
the worst story you ever heard.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Listen to me.
Okay, I'm listening. Here.
Just listen to me.
Let me hear
When
this.
it benefits you.
Okay. How's it going to benefit you? Monetarily?
It didn't say.
I'm
It just said
almost
something to
sleeping.
benefit you.
As the
My camera
investigator
is lower
continues
too,
to
so
prod,
it looks
Robert
different
finally
than it
poses the
probably
question
has
they'd all been
past couple
anticipating.
streams.
A question poised to unveil chilling answers.
They're going to make you out.
I've
to be
been on a
monster
couple
the stand.
hours already.
The only thing that you can say is, I didn't mean for this to happen. And that's what's got to come out of you tonight. I didn't mean for it to happen. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I made a mistake. All's not lost. But tonight's the night. I'm going to help you through it. I'm going to help you through it to take that weight off your heart.
You gonna help me through?
Yep.
How you gonna help me through?
Because we're going to talk about it. So I give that mama closure. And let her know that you're not the
4:30 in
monster
Texas.
that everybody makes you out to be.
2:30 here. 2:35.
Because right now, I'm your only saving grace.
I just need some writing saying that.
Oh, he about to confess, y'all.
You say you can't make me no deals. You can't. I just need something in writing saying.
How about this? We'll talk about this. And I will give you my word that I will go to the state attorney and I will say, he came in here, we did a little dance, but he found it in his heart to talk about this.
Hi, cutie pie.
owned
Welcome
up to
in. Good
Whatever
morning.
happens down the road is going to be up to them.
Well, okay, you telling him that. I mean, that's
His
still
word
not
exactly.
telling me you're.
Hang tight,
guaranteeing me
sit tight,
anything
or I
as
give
far
you
as
my
I'm
word. I'll tell the
And I can't do that for
prosecutor
you, brother. I can't guarantee you anything.
it's a wrap.
I'm not going to sit in here and lie to you and tell you that I can't.
And we're watching crime videos, cutie pie. Two crime videos.
Kind of number.
20.
I'm not following you.
Of time.
20 years?
Yeah. I mean, I know that may not mean a lot, but like I said, I mean,
What do you think her life is worth?
They do, Mama said, especially when they've been in that interrogation room a couple hours.
Did they find the candy in her mouth?
Left-handed bandit says,
Okay.
never trust police.
What was it?
I feel it.
What kind of candy?
I have no idea. I just know she was eating candy.
Finally, after 5
I know you're
excruciating
not a bad
hours,
person, even though
Robert
I'm
begins to
interviewing you
give
for
police the
murder.
confession they've worked so hard for. But while he's now approaching the truth of his involvement, some of the details still don't add up, and it only gets more unbelievable.
She then came out, she spoke bad. Said she had like my shoes. And she said something that I didn't understand. I was,
12 years old.
went on to my car. She was like, well, where's Lawrence? I said, Lawrence at work. She said, can I come in with you? And I told her no. And she couldn't come in. She kept on. I let her come over, I let her come over. I kept telling her no.
Now he's admitting it.
She walked over to the steps as I was going up the steps. And she said, I'm coming in. I said, like, no. The further I went up, the further she came up. When I make it to the door, she's in the top of the steps, and I tell her to go back home. Go home.
She's 12 years old, so she's forcing
She
herself
stands
on
there
you.
and she's like, why can't I come in? Why can't I come? I said, because you can't. You don't need to be over here. Leave.
In his version
Disgusting,
of the
man.
truth, Robert portrays himself as the innocent adult who attempted to discourage Naomi's advances, an account as unbelievable as the crime itself.
I really didn't mean for things to go where they did. I didn't try to hurt the child, but before I realized I had choked her out.
While Naomi's ultimate cause of death was asphyxiation, she bore multiple other injuries, including lacerations to her face, neck, and other parts of her body.
How? Just around the neck?
Around the neck. I choked her out around the neck. And I said I didn't really mean for it to happen. I didn't mean to do it.
You didn't mean to choke her
She was
out?
found. That's why I said I really
tripped, fell, and
take
choked
a
him
DNA
out.
test because they said when
Sorry.
she was found, she didn't have on no bottom. She was fully dressed. She was fully dressed. I never took any of her clothes off.
Just like you never did any of this stuff before,
she was
right?
fully dressed.
Right?
even
Just like you never had her in the house, right?
And left them with her.
At the creek?
Yes. I choked her out, yes. I'll admit that. I did choke her out, but I did not. That's why I stressed them, do a DNA test. No, do this. Like I said, because no, did I have with her in my car? No, I didn't do any of that.
Just put her upstairs.
No, I didn't have with her any of that.
Obviously, she's a good-looking little 12-year-old.
But that for her was not anywhere my intention.
Though it's likely difficult for the detective to talk this way, he's doing everything he can to minimize the crime to get a confession and get justice for Naomi.
Obviously, she's coming on to you. She wants to see her.
That's what she said, but that's not me. I understand.
It is what it is. I mean, she's trying to give you some. She's trying to give you
but
some.
that's not what I wanted from a 12-year-old.
Ew.
Okay.
That's not what I wanted from a 12-year-old.
So you grab her by the neck, you shove her against the wall or shove her against the door or what while you were choking her?
In the corner of the wall.
Corner of the wall behind the door.
Because you didn't want her, you choked her and killed her.
I mean, I guess
Instead of going to tell her mom, hey, your daughter's coming on to me.
When she went out, I thought she was they just blacked out, but I had choked her pretty damn good to the point where she wasn't breathing.
So she goes out, and then you're like, oh, realize what happened. Then what?
At first, I'm thinking that she's kind of and so when I see that she's not, I really just panicked from that point.
Where'd you put her?
She didn't do that, Mamacita.
She was in the car.
Where at?
In the backseat.
She didn't do none of it. She's 12.
So you grab her, carry her downstairs, and put her in the back seat?
Cutie Pie, my feet would have been so far up his ass, they would have been
Honestly,
pulling
I
a
didn't know
kneecap out
what
of
to
there.
do. I felt if I tried to take her to the hospital, it would say that this is what I was afraid of. If I took her to the hospital, I would end up here.
Right.
Because, okay, I brought this young girl to the hospital, dead or whatever. So I feel like I just had to, try to get rid of the body.
This adds a horrifying new angle to the case provided by Charles, the Good Samaritan who had gone out looking for Naomi. Police knew that Naomi's body had not been dropped into the creek until Friday at the earliest. That meant that Robert had kept Naomi's body with him for 4 days. Eerily, even when he had visited Yolanda, the body had likely been in the car the entire time.
And
Did
what
you
do
go
y'all
out to the
think he was
car
doing
when
with
you showed
that
up?
body the
Yes.
whole time?
Did you get in the car?
Yes.
You were in the front seat?
Yes.
Did you look in the back seat?
No.
Okay, you didn't notice like maybe a raincoat spread out back there?
I mean, I'm sure he had his rain gear because it was supposed to rain.
Okay.
But no, I didn't.
Because he's saying she was in there.
I didn't look in the back seat. I mean, I don't understand why he would let me sit in his car if there was somebody in his car. Like, at no point in our interaction did he ever seem like he was nervous or like he was worried about something or like anything was wrong. Like, there was never a point in us talking that it didn't seem right.
Back in the interrogation room with Robert, investigators attempt to hammer out the final details of his confession. In the process, they make a heartbreaking revelation.
I see the ladies walking, so I put my raincoat in the car, in the back seat, put my boots in the back on the floor. Naomi's mom was on the phone, the other lady was just walking with her, and the lady, she stopped me and asked me and said, "Have you seen a little girl?"
Yeah, she's acting weird too, ain't she?
And when she asked me that, my heart just sank.
Because you knew they were
I already
looking
knew they
for
were
her.
looking for her.
She's in your back seat.
She's back there in my backseat dead. And I'm like, well, I mean, I can't tell them that she's in my backseat dead. I mean, I said, no, ma'am, I haven't. And Naomi's mom was like, well, it's my little girl. So you know my little girl? I'm like, yes, ma'am. She at that point, she was like, I don't know what time she went missing. She like, her brother doesn't even know. So he was standing out there with her. He was like, he don't even know when she left. And trying to get away as fast as I can because I don't need him to walk me to my car.
Tragically, it appears that Shantara Hurry was within feet of her missing daughter's body during the first frantic hours of her search.
Damn.
It was also determined through the medical reports that Naomi was likely
Melissa, thank
killed
you for the
shortly
heart me.
after she disappeared. Horrifically, it seems Naomi had been dead for almost the entirety of the search.
I told you basically that I done killed the child, but
You did.
I mean, I didn't.
Fred,
no,
that heart.
no, nothing.
Abilene, thank you for
I
the
didn't try
so
to kill
much
her.
gift.
I honestly didn't try to kill her.
To gather further evidence on Robert's conduct after the crime and more clues on Naomi's presence in his vehicle, investigators check with his girlfriend, Lauren.
When is the next time you rode in his car?
Got our first kick comment, but it's a spam comment. Nice.
Just wondering if you remembered anything that
Shout
stood
out
out.
the kick.
That's why we're being so specific about these questions, because, you know, sometimes when we think we know somebody, we really don't. But we have enough at this time to go ahead and charge him with murder. And that's tough. That's really tough, because you have your own family to worry about.
I'm just really sad for you and your little boy, because you don't have anything to do with this, and your sweet little boy doesn't have anything to do with this. I'm so sorry.
Another one? Another video?
No, don't
Or
be
another
sorry.
crazy
Please don't be
person.
sorry.
I'm sorry to have to tell you that. Not anything like that, you know?
Well, of
Another
course,
victim in a
yeah.
different way. No.
Of course. You can't feel. You cannot. Do not take any kind of blame. Blame yourself. I mean,
There's so much
some people
trauma
just
for
snap,
no
you know?
reason. Like,
you don't know what triggers them in their head.
Despite his acknowledgement that he killed Naomi, Robert still continues to spout off denials and can't bring himself to tell the whole truth.
And I have no kind of desire to be with a 12
Robert,
Probably
STFU,
not at
Robert,
the time, but,
STFU.
I mean, because she acts like she's 17, 18. Wouldn't you agree that she acts?
I mean, the way she came on, she said, yeah. I understand what you're trying to do. Even if you ain't trying to do nothing. I mean, maybe she was just talking to see if she could see my. I mean, I don't know. But I didn't show it to her.
For the record, even when I was 12
I
years
didn't do
old, I
anything
never had a 12-year-old ask to
As
see
frustrating as Robert's stubborn denial may be, police have enough to charge
I've
him with the
never
murder of
experienced that
Naomi
before,
Jones,
so
and his
I don't
interrogation
know.
ended soon after. In 2021, a jury declared Robert Howard guilty of first-degree murder. He
Even
was
when I was
sentenced
12,
to
I
life
never
in
heard
prison
that.
without the possibility of parole. Eventually, Shantara Hurry, Naomi's mother, settled for $2 million in a civil case against the apartment complex owners on the grounds that they should have made other residents aware that an offender lived part-time on the property. While this is nothing in
So
comparison
unfair,
to the
man.
loss of her daughter, we can hope that this might lift some of the pressure on the single mother and ease the family's path going forward.
So damn, y'all. I'm gonna take my ass to bed after that one. I'm falling asleep anyway, but come back and see me in a couple of hours, y'all. Shout out to TikTok, Kick, YouTube. Shout out to you too. And yeah. Have a good night. Get some rest. I'm gonna try to do the same. Mama Zita came in and said, "Why you look sleepy?" I'm a little tired, but we'll be back in a couple hours, y'all. Love you. That's